Local author, longtime sports writer, freelancer, good friend Bethany Bradsher, who recently completed her new book, Super Bowl 50, celebrating 50 years of America's greatest game. Bethany has been a professional journalist and sports writer now for more than 2 decades and has covered everything from the Panthers and their inaugural season to the rich history of ACC basketball. She's authored 3 previous sports books. She's collaborated on others. And Bethany was kind enough to join us on short notice this morning, Bethany, so we appreciate that. How are you?
I'm doing great. Trent, how are you this morning?
Doing just fine. Glad to have you on this morning. And the Super Bowl 50 books takes a look at the players, coaches, fans, memories, traditions, and other things over the past 50 years that have really made the Super Bowl the most popular sporting event in America, and arguably, as Philip and I talked about in hour number 1, the most popular sporting event in the world. What was the impetus for you behind this book?
Well, it was done entirely differently than my other books in terms of my involvement. There's a publishing company out of Michigan that was interested in doing this book, and they advertised looking for a writer through a writing organization that I'm part of, and I answered that. And so it's very different. I've been part of a big team, whereas my previous books were really just me and a very small publishing company. And so it's been a real treat just to work with so many people in terms of graphic designers, and there's a sales team, and there are all kinds of people, public relations, that are trying to help make this book a success. And so every word in it I wrote, but that's all. All the rest of it, the design and putting it together and the conception and marketing of it, there have been a whole lot of other professionals working on that, and really they're all up north, so it's me down here as the writer, but it's been a delight, and I'm really proud of the book. I think it's a beautiful book. It's more of a coffee table, 344-page coffee table book that covers every aspect of the Super Bowl. We have halftime shows, commercials, parties, what kind of dips people like to serve at their parties, every way that the Super Bowl touches popular culture, and of course the football players, coaches, all the football aspects as well.
So the publishing company in Michigan kind of put out almost like a bid to authors. Is that kind of how it works? And you put in, so they had to review and see some of your previous writing in order to choose you. Is that?
Yes, they did. And my previous, NFL experience, because I covered the Panthers, and also Tony Collins gets a little bit of a plug because I worked on his book. And really, this is one of those things that I don't believe a coincidence, but my daughter was going to boarding school up there in the very town where this publishing company is based.
Interesting.
And so in the fall, when we were driving her to school, it was just so happened to be the perfect timing for me to interview in person. And I know that made a huge difference.
As you said, it's a beautiful coffee table book, 324 color pages packed with photos and stories covering every single Super Bowl game. Bethany, of the number of different things you learned about, I'm sure, and came across with this book, were you able to pinpoint a particular game or moment that was the turning point, you think, for the Super Bowl in regard to popularity?
It really did kind of build like a kind of a snowball going downhill. I mean, it was over time in some ways. Super Bowl III, everyone goes to that, and of course that was very early. But Super Bowl III with the Jets, when Joe Namath kind of called the victory, that was a huge game because it was the first, AFL Super Bowl win, and it was not expected. The NFL really, that was when there were 2 leagues, and the NFL really had a stranglehold. Everyone expected them to dominate. And so that was the first kind of upset that made people sit up and take notice. And I got to interview the 3 men who've been to every Super Bowl, the Never Miss a Super Bowl Club. There are 3 who've been to all 49, and all 3 of them cited that game as one of their biggies, one of their favorites. But I think the Steelers in the 1970s and what they did, the Iron Curtain, the Steel Curtain, sorry, and the players of those teams, and just the way that they dominated, and that really helped too. That's just a team that has so many loyal fans. And in every decade, you can pick a team like that. Then it was the 49ers, and then it's been the Patriots, and that really helped move this game forward. But, the halftime shows, the Michael Jackson show in the early 90s was the one where they said that it was the first game that the ratings rose during halftime. And so you can look at events like that were pivotal too and say, well, that was when all of a sudden the halftime show became news. But before that, it really hadn't been. It was marching bands and, kind of crazy things that you wouldn't even have thought would have been part of halftime. But it became a cultural event with that one.
Bethany, this is Philip. I'm curious about how perhaps your approach or your writing process may have changed regarding this book, because in the past, you focused on key figures, Bones McKinney, even writing for Tony Collins, and then obviously Coach LeClaire and Coach Connors. But maybe only like the classic, were you writing about an historical event or a spectacle, if you will? So I'm really curious about how you approach this, and if you did it differently from the point of view of a figure or a personality.
Well, this was so broad. It was like I went a half inch deep in every topic relating to the Super Bowl, rather than, going down a mile with one thing like I've done with some of the previous books. And the other difference is, like when I did the Dixie Classic book, there was almost nothing pre-existing about the Dixie Classic. I mean, I had to cobble that together on my own through microfilm and books and interviews. Obviously, there are reams of, a lot of writers have covered the Super Bowl and the games and every aspect. So it was a matter of finding those existing sources and figuring out which ones were the best and cobbling those together to do some great work. Kind of short articles that covered all these aspects. I did some live research in terms of interviewing people like the Never Miss a Super Bowl guys, but a lot of it was calling all of these other writers in the past that have covered the games and the people and figuring out what needed to be highlighted. So it was a little bit ADD, which suits my style of, okay, today I'm going to write about, halftime. Today I'm going to write about gambling, and then tomorrow we're going to do Super Bowl 5. And, it was all over the map.
We're discussing Super Bowl 50 with the local author Bethany Bradsher, celebrating 50 years of America's greatest game. And Bethany, you just mentioned the gambling aspect of it, and it seems like every year I learn of something new you can actually bet on when it comes to the Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
just from what the coach is going to have on the sidelines, obviously the coin flip there before the game, to what the first play is going to be. So I'm sure there are a lot of different things you learned about in regard to gambling when putting this book together.
Yeah, the prop bets, the proposition bets
prop
are
bets,
a fun
right.
one. We just put together a list of some of the most popular prop bets, and it's everything from the length, the over-under on the national anthem. I remember we had one that was what color hat Bruno Mars was going to wear. Some of the football-related ones are, what type of score the first score will be. Like if the first points are scored on a safety, which has actually happened in recent years, that one paid out quite handsomely because that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
I think there's one that's never paid out about no touchdowns being scored. That's a popular prop bet. And I think there's some about very low-scoring games and, different things that are kind of freaky, which player is going to be the first to score, the MVP. So there are all kinds of different bets. That's just kind of snowballed over the years with people. Whatever it is in the world, you can bet on it. Coin toss, obviously, is popular, and so that just contributes to the popularity of the game, because the more people can put their money down, or even if you're just in a Super Bowl party and someone's made a flyer, or we're all that's what we do at our party. Everyone's going to wager or just write down what they think is going to happen. It brings in people who maybe aren't even football fans because they're interested in all those parts.
And what's really neat about this book, there's a hardcover edition and also a softcover edition. The hardcover edition features a football grain textured cover with laces embossed on the spine, and of course the gold Super Bowl 50 across the front, and which is very fitting, obviously, with the NFL going kind of all gold with things this season. Of course, you saw the gold logo for the draft. You're going to see gold numbers on the field. In fact, starting with the Hall of Fame game in August, you'll see the gold markings on the actual field. So is that why you guys, I guess, chose that gold font there on the front?
Absolutely, golden anniversary, and the NFL is playing that up. And there, I believe, are 19 Super Bowl rematches on the NFL schedule this season.
Yeah.
And so they've made a concerted effort to honor the Super Bowl throughout the entire season. And it, it deserves it. I mean, there's just no other cultural touchstone like it. I can't think of anything. If you want to go on a world stage, you could talk about the World Cup. But in terms of the uniquely American event that makes people talk, even those who really don't even know, how to play football or how to watch it. Yeah. The Super Bowl it draws so much interest, and so it's been a lot of fun just to trace that and to figure out what makes it unique. And yet, at the heart of that, there's still some great football. And some of my favorite moments were retelling those games and thinking back and looking at the players that emerged, like David Tyree, in Super Bowl 42, who had that helmet catch, and everybody knows what a helmet catch is now when you say those words, and everyone knows who he is, and he had that bright, shining moment at one Super Bowl, but that's what that game can do. It can create those highlights that will live on for us for decades.
And a little twist this year to the Super Bowl champion, because they won't just get the Lombardi Trophy; they'll actually get a golden 50.
Yes,
which is pretty cool. So
it is pretty neat.
And you're seeing, of course, again, the uniforms are going to be. You'll see some gold trim and letters and numerals there with that. Some of the logos, again, the field markings. So it's going to be a fun season, certainly in the NFL. And with this being the 50th anniversary, this book would make a perfect gift for any football fan. And Bethany, do you have a favorite? I mean, when you think about Super Bowls over the years, does a particular game stick out to you in your mind as being one of your favorites?
Well, the one I just mentioned with the Super Bowl 42 with David Tyree, I remember just how improbable all of that was watching it. And so when there was one that I can remember, because it wasn't very long ago, obviously, the feelings of watching it and also writing about it, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, there were a few over the years that the one between the Rams and the Titans where it was a 1 yard reach. And that would have been this huge upset. And that was a great game. That was one that I still, also remember. A painful one to write was the Panthers Patriots.
I'm sure it was for you. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean, as a Panthers fan, North Carolinian, it was like, I just remember. It brings all that back. And actually, it was so much fun to write Super Bowl 49 because it was a great game, and there had been a trouncing the year before that. So it's always nice when you go from a kind of a big lopsided game to a game like we had this year. But I was able to write that as all the national media was discussing it. I mean, I literally wrote it the next day, and all the others I went back and did historical research, and so I felt like I was right in the middle of kind of this electric story with everyone, disputing the call and why did Pete Carroll make the call that he did at the goal line, and that was really fun. That was a great game. I think we devoted 2 full-page spreads to that.
And Bethany, with Super Bowl 50 wrapped up now, what's next for you? Any inspirations for the next book by Bethany Bradsher?
I do not actually know. So that's always a good question. And when great things come along, I'm certainly going to be looking for those. And so the publishing company out of Michigan, he has a lot of ideas of other things he'd like to do, commemorative college basketball history books for various schools and football books. This has kind of lit a fire under him. And so I know he'll let me be involved with those as they come along. So I will certainly let you guys know.
Bethany, what are the chances that this company in Michigan buys a 30-second ad on this year's Super Bowl to promote your book?
Well, I don't know.
They should do that.
The
commercials are such a big part of it.
It probably depends on how many of your listeners run to SuperBowl50book.com right now and buy books.
That's a good segue
in order for them
to
to afford that. Yes, because since a 1 minute or $5 million is what we're up to for a Super Bowl spot commercial.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's a crazy thing. But the book is not, if you order it today, it won't be in your hands until September, but it is available for purchase now. So,
and again, you can go to SuperBowl50book.com for more information about that. And again, if you buy the book, but you can go ahead and purchase either edition, the hardcover edition or the softcover edition, and books will not be shipped until September. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we are very excited about it. But September is when everyone's going to want to think about football anyway. So.
Yeah, well, we're happy for you. Congratulations on getting chosen to do this book, and I think it's going to make for a great gift for any sports fan, be it football or anything. I mean, everyone, as you said, watches the Super Bowl. You don't have to know how to play football, know a lot about football. It's become a huge spectacle in America and really across the world for that matter. So, Bethany, kudos to you. You're doing a great job with your works. I've enjoyed reading all of your books that I have and looking forward to getting my hands on this I want the hardcover edition. I like that. Yes. That's going to make for a great coffee table book. And the artwork's going to be beautiful. 320 full-color pages packed with photos, stories, everything you need to know about the last 50 years of the Super Bowl. Bethany, we appreciate the time this morning, and I look forward to seeing you soon.